Do you ever wonder what the future holds, or how you should make the right decisions today about tomorrow? Well, perhaps I can help.
I'm Tim Harford. I'm a part-time agony uncle and full-time economist. In this series, I want to show you how economics affects your everyday life. I'm not interested in interest rates or inflation, but I do believe I can help you find love, go shopping, get ahead at work, even see into the future, all with the help of some of the greatest economic thinkers in history.
By the time I finish with you, you should have the insider knowledge usually only available to big businesses, academics, and the government. In this final program, I'll show you why you make irrational decisions about your future, why experts are not always the best forecasters, and why taking control of your future is easier than you think.
And later, I'm going to try and give away this £50 note. It's not as easy as it looks. I think it's time for you to take control of your life. But first, I'll show you why you make the wrong decisions about your future. It's all about your fear of risk.
If only we knew what tomorrow held, we could make the right decisions today. But because the future is unknown, it frightens us. Just think of all the things that could go wrong. And this fear of the future drives us into the arms of companies and experts rather than making decisions for ourselves. In a world of uncertainty, companies are perfectly happy to help us deal with our fear of the future. They simply sell us insurance.
But we need to think before we buy. Companies are hardly going to make a loss on these deals. Take phone insurance, for example. Am I really going to get back more in claims than I pay out in premiums?
I'm going to meet John Hunter, head of insurance at Carphone Warehouse, to see if he can explain their insurance policies.
I was looking at these phones. I'm thinking of buying one. How much does it cost to insure them?
From as little as 92 pence per week up to as much as £2.92 per week, depending on the type of handset you have.
So if I had a £50 handset, then the insurance for that would be nearly £1 a week.
Around about £1 a week, yeah.
Okay.
You're covered for theft, loss, accidental damage, any unauthorised calls that are taken out on your phone, should it be stolen as well.
So if it's a £50 phone, I'm paying £50 in a year to insure it. This is good value for me if I think that I'm, like a friend of mine who basically trashes his phone every 3 months, then I'm really going to get great value for money. And then I was thinking about myself. I mean, I, for instance, have never lost a phone. I guess I'm boring and I don't get drunk enough or whatever. So that seems to imply that your estimate of my risk is much higher than my own estimate is.
Sure. The trouble is the average phone is actually costing more like £175.
So how much would you charge for insurance for a more expensive handset?
For a slightly more expensive phone, say £200, it'd be about £1.77 per week.
Yeah. But still, I'd have to have my phone stolen every couple of years for that to be really good value insurance.
Can I just... 1 minute?
I shouldn't really be giving him a hard time. In the world of phone insurance, this is not a particularly bad deal. Other leading phone companies all offer insurance for a similar price, or even more. But when you're offered insurance, you should always ask yourself, is this really good value for me?
Surely, as a customer, I should be thinking about, what the personal risk is to me, how likely I am to lose it, how likely I am to break it.
I guess it's really down to your own personal preference if you're, worried about things like that happening or not. We're not going to force you to take the insurance policy.
OK, well, I'm an economist, so all I have to do now is decide how likely I am to have my phone stolen or to drop it down the toilet. So I guess that's what I'll do. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So why are we such suckers for insurance?
The reality is we buy all sorts of insurance because we find risk so upsetting that we find it hard to think rationally.
For years, economists have been discovering quirks in the way we think about and react to risk. Daniel Ellsberg was one of them. Ellsberg had a double life. He used his skills as an economist to give strategic advice to the American government during the Vietnam War. But he was also a peace campaigner who believed the war was a terrible mistake. He became obsessed with the question of why the politicians seemed to be making such irrational decisions. So he conducted an experiment to show how we make decisions based on our fear of risk. And I thought I'd do my own version to show you what he means.
Excuse me, gentlemen. Do you mind if I do a little experiment?
Yeah.
Ellsberg took two different urns, just like I'm doing here. In one urn, I'm placing 5 balls with spots and 5 balls with stripes. And in the other urn, I'm also putting in 10 balls, but I won't tell them what the ratio of spots and stripes is. I call this the mystery urn.
Any of you gentlemen betting men?
I'm a betting man.
I'm going to ask him which urn he would choose for a bet that the first ball he draws is a stripe.
Pick a stripe, you win. If you pick a spot, I win.
Okay.
60 quid.
Done.
Let's see your 60 quid.
Okay.
There you go. Very nice. £120 if you get a stripe. Which one do you want?
This one.
You want to pick from this urn?
I do. I've got a 50% chance of winning from that one.
Yeah. And here?
Only you know what's in that one, not me.
Absolutely. Okay, don't look. Good luck. Spots. But unlucky. £120, very nice.
Just as Ellsberg discovered in his experiment, like most of us, Gary here doesn't like uncertainty. And when I ask him to bet again, this time on drawing a spot, he still goes for the safe option and chooses the urn with the certain odds.
And that's an irrational choice. You can't have a better chance of drawing spots and a better chance of drawing stripes, but you wanted the certain urn, and that's what a lot of people choose. We like certainty. We're even willing to pay to avoid uncertainty. Now, companies know this, so they try to take advantage of us. They try to take money out of our pockets, just as I've taken money out of your pocket.
Yeah, you have. Certainly done that.
Experiments like this explain why we allow ourselves to be talked into splashing our cash on insurance. We would rather pay for some certainty than take a chance on the unknown, even if this doesn't make rational sense. Now, I bet you're wondering, what was in the mystery urn? What's the matter? Can't you cope with the uncertainty? Insurance was invented a long time ago to protect people from the uncertainty of life. The Romans used burial clubs as a form of life insurance, providing funeral expenses for unfortunate deaths and payments to the survivors. In medieval Britain, seafarers paid an annual amount to protect against shipwrecks and piracy, and from the 17th century onwards, insurance firms began trading for profit. But in all cases, the insurance was only to cover catastrophic losses. Nowadays, it's very different. You can buy insurance on everything from your wedding to your pet. As it turns out, Gary is insured to the hilt, from his credit cards to his mobile phone. So I thought I would take him to see David Robinson, who runs a company called Bright Grey. As an actuary, he can put a real price on the likelihood of something bad happening to Gary. It's exactly what insurance companies ask actuaries to do when creating their policies.
Gary, why don't you tell us what insurance you've got at the moment?
I've probably got insurance on everything, from credit cards to the boiler, the mortgage, white goods, anything that's got that I own or I've got monetary value attached to has got insurance on.
How do actuaries sit down and work out how likely something terrible is to happen?
It's like any finished product. You've got the cost of raw materials, which for us is the probability. You've got the expenses of administering that policy, selling it, setting it up, servicing the policy, and the third item is the profit margin.
You could reduce the profit margin by just not unquestioningly taking an insurance policy just because it's offered to you. But what about reducing the risk? How likely is it that Gary is not going to be here this time next year? How would an actuary think about that?
How old are you, Gary?
40.
40, right, okay. And do you smoke, or are you not?
I do, I'm a smoker.
And roughly how much do you smoke?
Between 10 and 20 a day.
Okay. Obvious thing to do is to stop smoking. That would roughly halve the mortality. So you were talking about, instead of 1.3, per thousand. It's more like 0.6, 0.7 per thousand.
So you take 100,000 40-year-olds.
That's right,
And
yeah.
you say, well, how many of them make it to 41?
That's exactly what we do, and we do it for males, for females, for smokers, for non-smokers.
Now, David, imagine it wasn't Gary sitting here. Imagine it was Linda or Carol or Alessandra, a 40-year-old woman sitting in front of us. Would it be the same risk?
Certainly not, no. Women live longer than men, that's common knowledge. So if Alessandra or Linda was a smoker, there's about 70% of the risk for a woman compared to the man.
That's not really fair, though, is it?
That's life.
I'm not sure there's too much you can do about that one, Gary. I mean,
Not really, no, and I'm not prepared to go for any changes or anything else, just to reduce the risk.
I don't know whether it would
It
help.
would be easier for me to give up smoking.
I think it would be a lot easier for you to give up smoking. David, do you think that most people have the wrong priorities about insurance?
It's really important that people do think the unthinkable and put themselves in the position of saying, if I wasn't here, then what would happen to my spouse or my child and so on? And to insure their lifestyle before they start insuring the mobile phone and the washing machine and so on.
You don't want to take insurance just because the insurance company says you should take it. You inform yourself and you make decisions based on your own needs. And I know what you need is what we all need, which is insurance for the big risks. Of course I'm right. I'm an economist.
Right. You are right.
The next time somebody tries to sell you insurance, think about what you're really afraid of. Substantial loss or an irritation. Make sure you're insured for the losses you can't afford, not the ones you can.
Overloading ourselves with insurance is one of the crucial mistakes we make when thinking about our future. But is it the only one? Are we any better at making decisions about saving for our future? I thought I'd do a little investigating.
Just wondering, do you have any savings?
No, not at all. Nothing.
Do you have a pension?
No.
Are you worried?
No.
Why not?
Oh, because I've got my house. I like to spend my money.
Do you have savings and pensions?
No. Got children instead.
Your children, you're hoping that the children are going to look after you when you get old?
I'm banking on it.
Okay, that makes sense. Right, you guys got a job to do. You've got both. Excellent, congratulations. Well done. Glad to hear it.
I've got a pension from my work. I started work when they had a pension scheme, so I joined it. Yeah.
And you're confident in that?
Well, I'm not confident. I mean, pensions, I don't know whether when I do retire, whether it's going to be worth anything, but
Yeah.
you put faith in it, don't you?
Why don't you have any confidence in pensions?
I just don't know how they'd perform.
Do you have any savings or pension?
No.
Any particular reason?
I'm hoping that I'm going to make so much money that it won't be an issue.
You're investing in becoming a better, more successful artist?
Yeah. Whereas if I was to invest in stocks and shares, I wouldn't have a clue as to where my money would be going. I'd rely upon whoever it is that constructs a portfolio for me.
Yeah. Do you have a plan B if it doesn't work out?
Yeah, fill shelves in Tesco's, get a dead-end job and 9 to 5 rat race like everyone else, I suppose.
Plan A sounds pretty good to me, actually.
Yeah, I hope it works out.
These people have a point. Who should you trust with your money? After all, financial experts haven't been very good at forecasting the growth of our pensions, for example. Now, perhaps this is just bad luck, but a psychologist called Philip Tetlock thinks otherwise. He followed the predictions of 284 experts who made a living out of forecasting for the media, business and politics. Over a 20-year period, the experts made 82,361 different forecasts, and the results were astounding.
What Tetlock found was that experts who spend their whole lives studying the state of the world are no better at making forecasts than a random guess. You might as well have asked a bunch of monkeys.
And the more famous they were, the worse the predictions. Tetlock believed this is because the experts saw what they wanted to see, rather than what was really there. Crucially, they were rewarded whether or not they were correct, and they had no incentive to improve their accuracy.
Some experts get things wrong because they indulge their prejudices or they want to look original or provocative. But others make the wrong forecasts for a more sinister reason. They're under pressure not to rock the boat.
Tony Dye is a financial expert and legendary figure in the city who knows all about this pressure. Tony was labelled Dr. Doom in the 1990s when he warned about the likelihood of a dot-com crash.
You decided that the technology bubble was a bubble, that the stocks were overvalued. You pulled your clients' money out of the technology bubble. A lot of clients didn't like that and left you. The press criticised you. But you were absolutely right. You made the right call, but yet you drew a lot of flack. I wonder what that tells you about what most fund managers would rather do.
Well, most people prefer a quiet life, I think. And I think I would as well, really. I didn't invite the publicity. It just happened, and it was personally very intrusive. However well you can articulate the reasons for doing what you're doing, you're looked upon as some kind of maniac.
Tony resigned and now runs his own company. His experience shows just how much pressure there is to conform in the difficult world of financial forecasting.
You were right on your own, and yet you probably would have had a much easier time if you'd just been wrong with everybody else.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there was no benefit in the broadest commercial sense to me of actually taking a position and finally being vindicated. It's very hard to go along with the thundering herd when you think that herd is going, in a silly direction.
So do these financial experts really have the right incentives to help us?
The city is the guerrilla of marketing. I mean, there's hundreds, if not thousands of people that are seriously bright in the city who want to get rich, they want to sell things to people, and the one way of achieving that most easily is to sit there in a bull market selling product. Yeah, and the easiest product to sell is the sexiest thing at that time.
You say bull market, basically find something that's going up and start selling that.
Yeah, the problem is that people, when they get near money, it affects their psyche in some way. They get very greedy, they want the hot thing.
You're basically saying, don't try and make a killing, don't go for what's hot. That's exactly what everybody will be trying to sell you, because that's how they're going to get rich.
At real extremes, investing money at those times in equities is just not a very sensible idea.
And Tony thinks today's property market is overvalued, so watch out.
So now you know, expert forecasters aren't always paid to get it right. The next time you hear some fund manager touting the growth of his portfolio, or an estate agent telling you that house prices are bound to rise, ask yourself, are they telling you what they believe, or what would be good for profits?
There's another reason why we should be suspicious of expert forecasts, particularly when we're investing our money. Much of what the experts claim they can forecast simply can't be.
I'll let you into a secret. We experts can't predict share prices. In fact, any kind of financial forecast is peculiarly self-defeating. A bit like picking the shortest queue at the airport.
When you try to buy the most promising share, all you're doing is trying to pick the shortest queue, but so's everyone else. And if it's obvious which is the shortest, people will all move across and it won't be the shortest queue for long. And in the stock or property investment market, thousands of professionals are all trying to find the same bargains. So of course, there are no predictable winners.
If it were predictable, people would cash in on it, instantly changing the value of that share or property. That would cancel out any financial benefit.
Economists call this an efficient market, which simply means that, like the queues, the market adjusts according to all the available information, and there's no clear advantage for anyone for long. So if I said I was an expert who could tell people which queue was guaranteed to be the shortest, would people believe me or even pay me for my advice?
Excuse me. You're in this big queue, and I'm an expert on queues.
Oh, right.
So I thought I could tell you whether you should move queues or not, if you're interested.
Yeah.
But it would cost you £5.
Oh, really? No, don't.
No, not interested?
No.
£5, we're willing to queue for a little bit longer.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is an absolutely titanic queue, and you're at the back of it. I am an expert, so I could tell you which queue is the best queue to be in.
This is a bit like supermarkets, where you're always getting the wrong one with your trolley.
Exactly, unless you're an expert.
You can take me to the front then.
Well, I couldn't take you to the front, but I could tell you which queue to pick.
All right, okay.
Yeah, if you're interested.
Okay, yeah, very interested.
Okay, interested enough to pay? Would you pay like £5?
No, definitely not.
£2?
No.
Because you don't...
Free advice.
Because expert advice is never free. I could give you some advice as to whether... Because I've studied, what type of person takes longest in the queue and, which of these cashiers, which of these checkout people are quickest.
You don't get that much, do you?
Well, no, I'm an economist. So, no, I don't. You don't think that I could tell you which is the shortest queue?
Unless you knew something I didn't know with the staff, but unless there was a new member of staff or something.
So if I had inside information,
maybe,
then I might know. But
Maybe.
just being an expert who thinks he knows about queues, you don't take that very seriously.
These people aren't stupid, and they quite rightly refuse to pay me for something I can't actually predict. So when a financial expert offers you a guaranteed hot tip, think first before you hand over your cash.
So now you know all the reasons why experts shouldn't be trusted. The next time somebody promises to tell you about a cheap share or a cheap house, you should treat them with the same suspicion that these people treated me when I offered to point them to the shortest queue.
Experts are generally no better at forecasting than if they'd made a random guess. But perhaps efficient markets themselves can tell us something useful, even if experts can't. I've come to Newmarket, the home of racing, to show you how an efficient market can help you make a more accurate forecast.
I can't reliably pick a winner at Newmarket any more than I can pick the shortest queue at the airport or the best share on the stock market. And neither, I suspect, can anyone else.
Anybody like a bet?
So how can I decide which horse is a good bet in the race?
What are you going to back, if you don't mind me asking?
Number 5.
Number 5? What about you, Sir? Are you planning to have a flutter?
On number 1.
On number 1? Double Obsession?
Yeah.
I like the look of Double Obsession as well. What attracts you to Double Obsession?
One of the tipsters has tipped it, so they've probably got just as good an idea as I have.
Oh, I see. So you got expert advice?
Possibly.
Well, let's hope so.
Let's hope so.
What are the odds on Double Obsession?
50 to 1, young man.
50 to 1. I like the look of Double Obsession.
Well, you should back it then.
Well, there we go. Can I have £5 on Double Obsession to win?
For a win?
For a win.
Certainly. Number 1 a fiver, 50 to 1. Best of luck.
Thank you very much. Well, that was £5 down the drain. You know, there's an easier way to predict which horse is going to win.
4-1 Galactic! 4-1 Galactic Star!
An economics writer called James Surowiecki believes that if you want a more reliable forecast, you need to listen to the wisdom of the crowds. And here at the races, the crowds are telling us which horses they predict will win by setting the odds.
Yes, sir.
This might sound like a stupid question, but which horse is most likely to win?
Most likely to win? Well, according to the public, this is most likely to win. That's the shortest price horse in the race, Pescatorio.
Pescatoria.
A horse on at 9 to 4 should win 4 out of 13 races, or a little less since the bookie takes a cut.
The favourite, we consider that about 31% chance of winning. That's how we work it out. And obviously the 100 to 1 would be 1% of winning.
All right, yeah.
If you bet on the favourite, you may not stand to make a lot of money, but it's much more likely that you'll win.
£10 on the favourite.
£10 win horse number 8. Thank you.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much. Excellent.
Thank you.
The odds change continuously leading up to a race, reflecting the views of the crowd.
Economists call this an efficient prediction market.
Well, my horse lost badly again. That's gambling for you.
The market said that my horse should have won 1 out of every 3 races that it entered. Unfortunately, not this one. But if you want to try your hand at forecasting something more important than the winner of the 515, efficient prediction markets can still help.
Since 1988, the Iowa electronic market has been taking bets on election results by buying and selling shares in election candidates. Payouts would depend on the number of votes your candidate won. This betting market has consistently provided better predictions than most opinion polls. And there are prediction markets on the internet where you, too, can bet on anything from who the next Prime Minister will be to whether the property market will crash.
Economists have found that predictions which come from a large number of individuals, each bringing their own information and judgment, tend to be more accurate.
This is because in prediction markets, each person is putting his money where his mouth is, and so is more likely to bet according to what he really thinks will happen, not just what he wants to happen. What economists are saying is that experts rarely outperform markets, whether the stock market or more unusual ones like the Iowa electronic market. So if you want a better prediction, ask a crowd. Listening to the wisdom of crowds is one good way of forecasting the future, but it's guaranteed that the future will be pretty damn awful if we don't take our heads out of the sand. There's a time in our lives when we're too old to earn money, but not too old to spend it.
So if experts don't have the right incentives to help us, and ordinary people are better at telling the future than they are, why do we find it so hard to take responsibility for our own financial future? I'm going to try and give away this £50 note, and I bet you nobody takes it.
Traditional economics says that £50 notes aren't left unclaimed for long. But this is exactly what American economists found was happening in a recent experiment with workers and their pensions. Workers over the age of 59 were allowed to withdraw as much as they liked from their company pensions, and their employers matched their pension payments pound for pound. So you could put £5 in today and take £10 out tomorrow without diminishing the value of your pension. What a bargain. But many of these workers didn't take up the offer, which cost some of them about £50 a fortnight. That's a lot of money to leave lying around.
So why didn't those American workers pick up the free money? And why don't we take advantage of similar schemes in this country? Tax-free savings plans, for example. It's a question that perplexes economists. Excuse me. Sorry. Excuse me. Excuse me, sir.
Is it because we're too busy with our lives today to think about tomorrow?
In a rush, OK. Excuse me.
I've got one little experiment left, and it's going to change somebody's life. If only I can find somebody to take the time to listen to me.
I'm scared. Just wanted to ask, do you have a pension?
No, why?
Well, are you planning on dying young?
Not at the moment.
Well, it should be obvious why you should have a pension then. Do you have a savings account?
No, I'm afraid not.
Do you have a phone?
Yes.
Good, you got something. Phone your bank, please.
Why should I do that?
If you want to have some money when you get old, you need to save now. And when we say now, we mean now. So get your phone out, call your bank.
Right now?
Yep. Good. You're lucky you've met me, you know.
Thank
I'm
you
an
very
economist.
much. What should I say to the bank? Hello, I would like to open the savings account. Also, I would like to make a regular payment at £5. Thanks very much. Goodbye.
Congratulations. It's a lucky evening.
Thank you very much.
Good.
She's taken back control of her future in one simple call without an expert in sight.
My work here is done. Just remember, don't leave it all to the experts. Whether you're taking a calculated risk with your mobile phone or facing the future by spending a little of your money on your retirement, the future is in nobody's hands but your own. Why did you choose this queue?
The board says go to gate 27.
Okay, and that's
gate 27.
Yeah, that would be good. You're not interested in giving me a fiver then?
No, you can give me one.
You walked in the airport. How did you decide which queue to get into?
Because I saw you in that one and I thought I don't want to be there.
Makes sense.